Mike Foresman. Mike graduated from Ely Memorial High School in 1965 and is the oldest of 10 children born to Dale and Flossie Kobe Foresman. After high school, Mike served his country as a Marine and married Ernestine Hautala. Together they had 4 children. He worked in the mines as a mechanic and served as an Ely City Councilor, Mayor of Ely, and St. Louis County Commissioner.
So first, I'd like to say, Mike, thank you for all of your service.
It was an honor. It was an absolute honor to serve this community, and yes, it was.
Well, so tell me about what year did you graduate?
Graduated in 1965.
Okay, you were born and raised in Ely. Did you go through the entire school system here?
I did go through including the junior college when it was a junior college before it became a community college, and then I did graduate later on from the Vermilion Community College with an AA degree there and stuff. And I left there to go to Reserve Mining Company in January of '67. After my friend Louis Thompson came in and showed me his check that he got from Reserve Mining Company. I said, "Holy mackerel, you can make real money here," you know. And I on a cold January, must have been the 29th of January because I started January 30th. I went up to the gate to ask him for a job. Stan Landa took and interviewed me. They sent me down to see the clinic and start the next day on January 30th, probably about 10 below zero. I started at the mine, sweeping floors in the crusher, and shortly thereafter got on their apprenticeship program for diesel mechanic, which in my mind was one of the wisest moves that I ever made in my lifetime. It certainly has. Financially has been really good to me there and stuff.
You came from a big family. Why don't you tell us about that and going to school with all the kids?
I was lucky enough to be born to the 2 finest people on earth, Dale and Florence Foresman. I choke up when I talk about my parents because I honestly don't think I could have found 2 people that cared as much about their children. 10 children. I was the oldest of 10, and 9 siblings. Obviously, if there were 10 of us there and stuff. And to this day, I think that we have probably one of the strongest bonds of a family that you can have. I really do. I love all my siblings, and I feel that they love me too. So.
Did you have to work at home when you were growing up and going to school?
That's almost like rhetorical. I mean, when you come from a family of 10, you gathered the wood in the woods. You hauled it to when I just got my license, I got my driver's license when I was 15. We filled that pickup time and time again with firewood there. We split it. There was no hydraulic splitters then. It was all, with axes, et cetera, et cetera. You carried it in the house for you. You washed the dishes. In fact, when I started at Reserve Mining Company, in January, my mom said, it's going to cost you $150 a month to live here at our house. The only thing that's going to be changed is you won't have to do dishes anymore. And that's true. I mean, and $150 back then was quite a bit of money.
So did you work in the summer? Did you have summer jobs when you were in school?
I started delivering papers when I think I was 9 years old, I believe. And then when I was probably around 12, I'm guessing, I started working for Sonny Verteen as a busboy at Verteen's Cafe. And at that time, when I was 15, Sonny had a partial ownership of Canadian Waters. I think they bought him out the following year. But Sonny got me over there as an outfitter when I was 15 years old. So I transferred across the street from the Forest Hotel over to Canadian Waters and worked there as an outfitter until all the summers until I started at the Reserve Mining Company in '67. And I will say that I absolutely enjoyed working there. I mean, we had some of we had a great crew there. I mean, an absolute great crew that we worked with, and it was great to meet all of the different people. And at that time, when you got there in the morning, the parking lot would be full of people, all with their packs, all excited to get out into the Boundary Waters. Some of these people still go out there, but now they got their cane with them when they're going and stuff, you know, and you know, but and some of the adventures that we had were above and beyond fun. I mean, I used to love taking out the towboats and going. Louis Thompsich, one of my good friends, was a towboat driver.
What was it like to be in school in the 50s and 60s? What was the atmosphere like at school?
While I was going to school, I really believed that there was a tremendous respect for the teachers and the staff, not just the teachers, but the staff. I mean, I picture the janitors were they were people you respected. The teachers were, the bus drivers were somebody that you respected, and you really didn't talk back or get in trouble, because when you got home, mom and dad made sure that you got in trouble there too. If you got in trouble in school, you got in trouble at home, and that wasn't always a good thing there and stuff there, because Dad was tougher than the teachers were there. But we had some great teachers, and I'll say it, even though it might be a little bit but my favorite teacher was Bud Adamick. I absolutely admired that man. No, I still got this soft heart there when I think about him. He was my mentor when I got on the city council. I sat right next to Bud. And Bud was one of the sharpest guys that you'll ever know. I mean, and he was a serviceman, served as a photographer on a bomber, which he actually got to fly in one of those bombers at the Duluth Air Show. They escorted him up, got to sit right where he used to sit when he was taking pictures and stuff. I'll tell the story the way that the story happened. So a couple of bad guys, not bad guys now, but maybe a little bit back in high school, they put a tack on Bud's chair right in front of the study hall. And study hall was full. You know, I forget which study hall, probably down the way at the end of this hall here. And Bud got up there, sat on that tack. Bud did not move. He sat there and looked around till somebody started to laugh. Then they came up, you know. I couldn't have done that. I would have jumped up, and then everybody would have laughed. No, Bud sat there till he saw someone laugh. Get up here, you know, and stuff. It was great. I did like a lot of other teachers. I mean, I really did, and I admired them there. And some of them I really got to know better after I got out of school. And I'll use Merle Lunsford for an example. Merle ended up being a good friend after I got out of school. He was, when I was in school, he was Mr. Lunsford. He was an authority. He was an authoritative figure, and to me, I had to respect him. You know what I mean? And I still respected him afterwards. But afterwards, he became like a friend. You know what I mean? Some of the teachers certainly shaped some of my future. You know what I mean? I was not a good student. I'll put that right up front. I was not a good student. I don't think I ever took a book home. I didn't even care about school. All I wanted to do was get home and work on cars. That's all. And I mean, my grandpa owned a junkyard, and if I was happy in that junkyard. I was happy in our garage. But I apparently had enough intelligence that I was able to make it through school, even without taking a book home. And I didn't get great grades, but at the same time, I think I retained a lot of what was taught in school. I really do. And like I said, this school system, and it probably still is today, but it was a great school system. It was something that I think our community was and probably still is proud of. The truth is, some of my good memories were the people that you got to be in school. People have always been a real important part of my life there and stuff. You know, to know people, to take in, to interact with people, cutting up and stuff like that. And I under my class picture in the yearbook, it says impromptu classroom comic, something or other like that. And I did like to do that. I know I used to sit behind Midge Folio, you know, because Folio, Foresman, I sat next to her, behind her probably for decades. and Midge sometimes would just egg me on there and stuff, you know, and she did good at it, and I was usually took the bait and yeah. So one of my favorite memories is my wife. When I was a junior in high school, I took German class there and stuff there, and Ernestine took German class as a freshman. I used to always forget my book, so I could slide my desk over to her, and then I could read her book. But that way, I'd be close to that pretty girl next to me, that little redhead next to me. And if we had to go up to the blackboard, I always used to like to stand next to her at the blackboard there. And it was, and many years later, and I think I've told you the story off of this interview and stuff like that. You know, I met up with her, and it ended up with a 55-year marriage that seems like it's still going pretty darn good.
Do you keep in touch with your friends from high school? I mean, besides Ernestine, which we know.
Oh, absolutely. Tony Simi is still a real good friend of mine. We ran away to Florida together in his '59 Ford convertible one time there and stuff there, and his dad put out an APV for us. Got to West Palm Beach, Florida there, watching a drive-in movie, and we decided we were going to turn around and go back home there. And I always regretted that we didn't make it down to the Keys, because that is on my bucket list to get to the southernmost point. But Tony's still a good friend, and Louis Tomsich I always considered being, you know, just a great friend. I spent a day with Jim Garney just not too long ago, and Jim was a great friend growing up there and stuff like that. Spent a lot of time out at my grandpa's junkyard working with him and stuff like that. Mo Filson has spent a lot of time driving around in his brother's cars. When his brother would come home, his brother always had the nicest cars. Certainly, I'm a coffee shop person, so I love going out for coffee and stuff like that. And if you're in Ely, Minnesota, and you go for coffee, all of a sudden someone sits down you don't know. 2 weeks later, you're good friends.
Did you get into any other trouble besides running away to Florida?
Pete Jacek had Pete Jacek, who became a good friend of mine when he was chief of police, and even before that. But at one time he stopped me, and I had my '27 Chevy, and he told me, he says, "I don't want to see any more than 2 people in this car, or I'm going to give you a ticket for overloading." We got 4 of us in that '27 Chevrolet there and stuff, and I look in the rearview mirror, and here's Pete coming up behind me with the red lights on there and stuff, right in front of the school here and stuff like that. Well, we went through about 3 stoplights. And hid the car, dropped the girls off there and stuff like that, and I drove home, got home, and my dad says, Pete Jacek says to give him a call, and I says, why? He says, because you outran him. I says, well, how does he know it's me? He says, my dad says, how many old Chevrolets that can outrun the cop car in town? Well, we had a Chevy V8 and this old '27 Chevrolet there and stuff like that. So I called Pete, and Pete says, Mike, I've got a ticket sitting here on the counter here. He says, the way I figure it, he says, you were overloaded. You ran 3 stoplights. You outran the cops. This was before fleeing the police was a felony, you know, and stuff like that. This was before that. And he says, I've got a ticket here for 50 miles an hour in a 30 mile an hour zone. He says, if you don't come in and pick up this ticket, he says, I'm going to take in, my only job till I retire is to follow you. He says, I'll follow you and you forget to turn your turn signal on at the right time, he says, you got a ticket. He says, your tires don't have enough tread on them, you got a ticket. He says, that's going to be my only job when you come to Ely. He says, to follow you. And I says, I'll be right in, Pete. I was a hot rodder back then. Took me a while to realize that, that you have to do things that there's places that you can do it that are safe. And there's places you should never have done it. And the thing is, the good Lord, and I really believe this, the good Lord and a hell of a guardian angel kept me from getting into serious trouble where it could have been way different. I would never advocate the things that I did to anybody. I mean, because you couldn't get away with it. Two things. You couldn't get away with it, and nobody could be as lucky as I was. Nobody.
You left Ely to serve in the military. Why did you decide to come back? What drew you to Ely?
That's almost self-explanatory. I mean, I love this town. I really do. I mean, the family was here, and right now most of my family is here. Though the memories and opportunity. If you look at my resume, it'll look like I'm 150 years old. I mean, I've always worked two jobs. Even when I was in the Marines, I worked at a body shop in the evenings when I'd get done with radar school. I'd be working in a body shop in 29 Palms when I drove tour bus there for Dennis Konechny up on when he was running it as a resort outfitting up there, picking up people from St. Louis, from the Chicago area, and from Indianapolis and stuff like that. We in the late 70s, we bought two over-the-road trucks, and on vacation from Reserve Mining Company, I used to drive the over-the-road trucks. My kids were my youngest wasn't around yet, but my three oldest kids were probably the only kids in the Ely school system that had been to the Caribbean, to Galveston in an over-the-road truck, been to California in an over-the-road truck, because you could fit them all in a cab over and stuff. All of that, people ask me how I did it. I honestly don't think I could do it anymore. I really don't. I mean, I didn't have a lot of time to do things. No 27 Chevrolets got worked on when I was doing both of them. I enjoyed doing both. One of the things that I tell people is that the two jobs were so absolutely different that's the only reason I could do it. If I had a job where I was doing paperwork in the evening, and stuff like that, it would have been really difficult to be a county commissioner and do paperwork. But when I'd get to the mine, heavy equipment mechanic, first of all, it comes naturally. So, I mean, I'm using my hands. I'm keeping myself relatively physically fit. When you're climbing up into a 240-ton truck, you're climbing, you're taking and changing stuff, and you don't have to think about it because it's all natural. But yet, when you're at the board level, at the board level for the St. Louis County Board, you got to use your brain. And you have to think about things. Was
there any help in the schools to become more mechanical?
To be honest, Mr. Fisher, who actually became a friend later on after school, Bill actually ended up being a friend. But when he was a counselor, he didn't do me any favors. He was trying to guide me in a direction I wasn't ready to go. I mean, and the only reason that I went on the apprenticeship was that at Reserve Mining Company, I'm sweeping floors in the crusher, and this postage comes up there. They're starting a new mechanic apprentice program, and we'll pay you job class 6. You're getting job class 2 sweeping floors. And I was thinking, I don't want to do this for any length of time. So I applied and got on real quickly and stuff. So In school, I was never guided to it. But to guidance, the guidance that I got probably served me probably better in my political career than it did in my mechanical career. The truth is, I think that teachers like Mr. Dressage, Mr. Penninger, L.D. Foster, those guys with their vision of the world, of their vision of history, their visions of things, those resonated with me, and in my opinion, how great this nation is, and our, and our laws, et cetera, et cetera. Those kinds of things, I think, really served us well. So, to your question, I don't think that they served me in my career as a heavy equipment mechanic, or even in 11 years I worked at a dealership, and stuff. But I do think they served me in my political career because they really put a ground base on a baseline on things, and that baseline really worked well for doing things. My advice to kids: if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be those things that require a college education, go for it. Keep your grades up, work hard at it so that you can get into those colleges that you want. Prepare yourself the best you can, knowing that it's going to cost you a lot of dollars to go to college. It will. But to those people that are looking to make some money, to have a good life, I would honestly recommend the trades. The trades served me well. They served my or the military. Those kinds of things don't require a college education. And a couple things. One is, and I'm not telling anyone to jump into the military. What I am saying is that if you're leaning towards it, don't be afraid of it. When you get out of the military, or even when you're in, you have the opportunity to have a lot of free college, a lot of free education, experiences you could never, ever have in a civilian life. I mean, I've stood on the Parthenon in Athens, Greece. I never would have stood on the Parthenon in Athens, Greece if I wasn't a Marine sergeant deployed over there. It wouldn't have happened. I've been in Valencia, Spain, saw the bullfights there and stuff. Never would have seen that. I never would have got to ride across the Atlantic in the middle of the winter, bobbing up and down in the ocean in a 775-foot flat-bottom boat there with about 400 Marines with me there and stuff, if I hadn't been in